The past never stays buried. Years after a fleeting act of courage, the danger returns, and the stakes are higher than ever. Shadows of power threaten the innocent, and every choice carries a price. In this world of loyalty, protection, and survival, one girl's courage will ignite a story no one could predict. Monday morning I sat in my first meeting. Conference room on the 39th floor. Dominic at the head of the table. Marco on his right. 4 other men I didn't recognize. I sat in the corner, notebook in hand, instructed to watch and listen and say nothing. The meeting was about territory. The Russians wanted to expand into the docks. Dominic's docks. The men argued about the response. About sending messages. About making examples. We hit them hard, one man said. His name was Thomas. Late 30s, expensive suit, cold eyes. Take out their warehouse. Burn it down. Show them we don't negotiate. That'll start a war, another man argued. A war we don't need right now. We're already in a war. They made the first move. The first move was asking, not talking. Asking is testing. Testing becomes difficult if we look weak. The argument went in circles for 20 minutes. Dominic sat quietly, listening. Finally, he held up one hand. Silence fell immediately. Adrian, he said. What did you hear? Every head turned toward me. Thomas looked annoyed. Marco looked curious. I swallowed hard. Everyone's afraid, I said. Explain. Thomas wants to hit hard because he's afraid the Russians think we're weak. But he's also afraid that if we don't act, the others will think we're weak too. He's not arguing for war. He's arguing against fear. I looked at the man who'd argued against violence. His name was Gregory. Gregory doesn't want war because he's afraid it'll spiral. That the Russians will retaliate. That innocent people will get hurt. He's not arguing for peace. He's arguing against chaos. The room stayed silent. What you're really deciding, I continued, isn't whether to act. It's what you're more afraid of. Looking weak or creating more enemies. Dominic leaned back in his chair. And what would you do? I'm not qualified to. I'm asking anyway. Took a breath. I'd talk to them. Not negotiate. Not ask permission. Just talk. Find out what they really want. Because people who ask first usually have a reason. Maybe they're testing like Thomas said. But maybe they're desperate. Maybe they need something specific. And if you know what someone needs, you know how to control them. Thomas laughed. This is who you brought in to advise us. A driver who thinks talking solves everything. This driver, Dominic said quietly, saw something in 30 seconds that you missed in 30 minutes. Everyone in this room was so busy being tough. Nobody asked why the Russians came to us first instead of just taking what they wanted. Thomas went quiet. The meeting adjourned, Dominic said. Gregory, set up a conversation with the Russian leadership. Tomorrow. Neutral ground. I want to know what they actually want. He stood. Adrian, stay. The others filed out. Marco lingered near the door. When everyone else was gone, Dominic sat back down. You did good. I just said what I saw. That's the job. Saying what everyone else is too afraid to notice. He pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. This is your real assignment. Read it. Tell me what you think. I opened the folder. Inside were photos, documents, and transcripts of phone calls. All related to a man named Lucas Brennan. Who is this? Someone who works for me. Someone I'm thinking about promoting to a higher position. Someone I'm not sure I can trust. Dominic stood. People lie with words. But files tell the truth. I want you to read everything in that folder. Then tell me what I'm missing. I spent 3 days reading Lucas Brennan's file. Every document, every photo, every transcript. The more I read, the more pieces connected in ways that made my stomach turn. Lucas Brennan had worked for Dominic for 6 years. Started as an enforcer. Worked his way up to lieutenant. Respected. Feared. Loyal, everyone said. But the file told a different story. Small things. Inconsistencies. Meetings that happened at odd times. Phone calls to numbers that couldn't be traced. Money that moved through accounts in patterns that looked random but weren't. A sister who lived in a house too expensive for her job. A brother-in-law who got out of debt too quickly. Made notes. Connected dots. Built a timeline. And when I was finished, I asked for a meeting with Dominic. He listened while I walked him through it. Showed him the connections. Explained the patterns. By the time I finished, his expression had gone cold and dangerous. You're saying Lucas is selling information. I'm saying money is moving in ways that don't make sense unless someone's paying him for something. I'm saying his family suddenly has more than they should. I'm saying he takes phone calls at weird hours and never uses the same number twice. That's not proof. No. But it's enough to ask questions. I met his eyes. Real questions. The kind you let him finish answering before you decide what's true. Dominic was quiet for a long time. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. Marco. Bring Lucas to the estate. Tonight. Tell him I have a promotion to discuss. He hung up and looked at me. You're going to sit in on this conversation. You're going to listen. And if you're wrong, if Lucas is innocent, you're going to be the one who apologizes to him. And if I'm right, then you just saved my life. Because I was about to give Lucas access to every operation I run. Every safe house. Every shipment. Everything. He stood. Let's hope you're good at reading people, Adrian. Because if you're not, this is going to be a very unpleasant evening. Lucas Brennan arrived at 8 p.m. Tall, built like a boxer, with a scar across his left eyebrow and a smile that never reached his eyes. He shook Dominic's hand, nodded at Marco, looked at me with curiosity. Who's the kid? Consultant, Dominic said. Sit down. We need to talk. We sat in Dominic's study. Leather chairs. Low lighting. A fire crackling in the fireplace. It should have felt comfortable. Instead, it felt like sitting in a cage with something dangerous. I'm thinking about restructuring, Dominic began. Moving people into new positions. I wanted to talk to you about taking over the Eastern operations. Lucas smiled. I'd be honored, sir. It's a big responsibility. More access. More information. More trust is required. You can trust me. You know that. Do I? Dominic leaned forward. Because I've been reviewing some things. Financial records. Phone logs. Pattern analysis. And some things don't add up. Lucas's smile faltered. What things? Your sister's house. Your brother-in-law's debt. The calls you make at 3 a.m. to numbers that change every week. Dominic's voice stayed calm. Conversational. But I felt the threat underneath. Want to explain those? My sister's house was inherited from our grandmother. My brother-in-law works hard. The calls are personal business. Lucas's hands gripped the armrests tighter. You're accusing me of something. I'm asking questions. There's a difference. Sounds like you've already made up your mind. Have I? Dominic sat back. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me there's a simple explanation. I'm listening. Lucas stared at Dominic. His jaw worked. His knuckles went white. And I watched his eyes. Saw the calculation happening behind them. The decision being made. You want the truth, Lucas said. Always. Fine. Yeah, I took money. From the Italians. Been doing it for 18 months. They wanted information about your shipments. Your routes. Your safe houses. I gave it to them. He leaned forward. But I never gave them anything that mattered. Never told them about the big moves. Just small stuff. Enough to keep them paying without hurting your operations. The room went silent. Marco's hand moved toward his gun. Dominic didn't move at all. Why? Dominic asked quietly. Because you pay me to risk my life, but you don't pay me enough to retire. You talk about loyalty and family, but at the end of the day, we're all disposable to you. I wanted insurance. A nest egg. Something to walk away with when this life catches up to me. By selling me out. By playing both sides smart. Lucas's voice hardened. You think you're the only one allowed to be strategic. You think loyalty means being stupid. I protected your important operations. I just made sure I'd have something when you didn't need me anymore. Dominic stood, walked to the fireplace, stared into the flames. Marco, take him to the basement. Boss, wait. You admitted you betrayed me. What did you think would happen? I thought you'd understand. Lucas stood, his voice rising. I thought you of all people would get it. You built this empire by being smart, by hedging bets, by not trusting anyone completely. I learned that from you. I never taught you to betray your family. I'm not your family. I'm your employee. And employees protect themselves when their boss forgets they exist. Dominic turned around. His expression was unreadable. Get him out of here. Marco and two other men dragged Lucas toward the door. He didn't fight. Just looked at Dominic with something like disappointment. You used to understand survival. You used to be smart. But you've gone soft. And soft men die in this business. The door closed. Silence filled the study like smoke. Waited. Didn't know what to say. Finally Dominic spoke. He's right about one thing. I did teach him to be strategic. To protect himself. I just never thought he'd use those lessons against me. He looked at me. You saved my life tonight. I just read a file. You saw what I missed. You heard what he wasn't saying. That's worth more than you know. He walked to his desk and pulled out an envelope. Handed it to me. This is yours. Inside was a check. More money than I'd made in a year. I can't. You can. You will. You earned it. He sat down heavily. Lucas was one of my best people. Someone I trusted. And he sold me out for 18 months without me noticing. What does that say about me? It says you're human. You can't watch everyone all the time. I used to. I used to see everything. Notice everything. But lately. He trailed off. Looked toward the window. Lately I've been distracted. Thinking about my brother. About Nina. About Isabella. About whether this life is worth what it costs. Maybe that's not a distraction. Maybe that's growth. He looked at me sharply. You're learning to care about people again, I said carefully. To see them as more than tools. That's not a weakness. That's what makes you different from men like Lucas. Being different doesn't keep you alive in this business. Maybe. But it keeps you human. Dominic was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, my brother used to say something similar. Staying human was harder than staying powerful. I never understood what he meant. I thought being powerful required giving up humanity. But maybe. He shook his head. Maybe I was wrong. The clock chimed midnight. Outside, the garden was dark except for pathlights along the walkways. Somewhere in this house, my mother was sleeping peacefully. Isabella was probably having nightmares again. Nina was reading in her room. All of us living in this strange fortress, protected by a man who was learning to listen again. What's going to happen to Lucas? Yes. What do you think should happen? I think you should let him finish talking. Dominic raised an eyebrow. He already confessed. He confessed to what he did. He didn't explain why he felt he had no other choice. He didn't tell you what scared him enough to betray you. Understood. You asked me to listen for what people don't say. Lucas didn't say he hates you. He said he felt disposable. That's different. You think I should spare a traitor. I think you should understand why he became one. Then decide. Dominic studied me for a long time. Then he picked up his phone and called Marco. Don't kill him yet. I want to talk to him again tomorrow. Alone. The next morning, I found Nina in the garden with Isabella. They were planting flowers. Isabella's hands were covered in dirt, but she was smiling. Actually smiling. Adrian. She ran over and hugged my legs. Look what we're planting. Nina says they'll bloom in spring. That's months away, but I'll still be here to see them. Right. Right. I said, hoping it was true. Nina stood and brushed dirt from her jeans. She slept through the night last night. First time in weeks. That's great, Isabella. I had a dream, Isabella said, returning to the flowers. But it wasn't scary. I dreamed my mom came back and she said sorry for leaving. She said she was sick and needed to get better. She said she still loved me. My throat tightened. That sounds like a nice dream. Nina says sometimes dreams tell us what we need to hear, even if it's not real yet. Nina met my eyes over Isabella's head, mouthed the words, "Thank you." We worked in the garden for an hour, planting bulbs that would bloom when winter ended, talking about small things, normal things. For a while I forgot where I was. Forgot this was a criminal's estate. Forgot Isabella's mother had abandoned her and might never come back. Forgot Lucas was in a basement waiting to learn if he'd live or die. Then Marco appeared. "Boss wants you." I found Dominic in his study. He looked like he hadn't slept. I talked to Lucas. And he told me everything. The real everything. His daughter has a rare blood disorder. She needs treatments that cost $40,000 every 6 months. His insurance doesn't cover it. He asked me for an advance 18 months ago. Said no. I told him to figure it out himself. That I wasn't a charity. Dominic's voice carried regret I hadn't heard before. So he found another way. He sold information to the Italians. Small things that wouldn't hurt me but would pay for his daughter's treatments. He's been doing it ever since. Not because he wanted to betray me. Because I gave him no other choice. What are you going to do? I don't know. He rubbed his face. The rules are clear. Betrayal means death. If I let him live, others will think I'm weak. They'll think betrayal is acceptable if you have a good enough reason. But if I kill him, I'm killing a father who did what he had to do to save his child. What would you do? You're asking me. You're the one who said I should finish listening. I listened. Now help me decide. I thought about my mother upstairs. About the choices I'd made to keep her alive. About driving strangers and sorting packages and doing whatever it took. If someone came to you desperate, asking for help, what would your brother have told you to do? Dominic went very still. He would have said help them. Then maybe that's your answer. It's not that simple. I know. But maybe the rules need to change. Maybe loyalty works both ways. You expect your people to risk their lives for you. Maybe they should expect you to risk something for them too. I can't save everyone. No. But you can start with one. That afternoon Dominic called a meeting. His full leadership. 20 men in the conference room. I sat in my corner, notebook ready, watching. Dominic stood at the head of the table. Lucas Brennan betrayed me. Sold information to the Italians for 18 months. The penalty for betrayal is death. Everyone here knows that. The room murmured agreement. Thomas looked satisfied. Gregory looked uncomfortable. But before I give that order, Dominic continued, I want to tell you why he did it. His daughter is sick. She needs treatments we don't provide insurance for. He asked me for help. I refused. So he found another way to save his child. Silence. Uncomfortable silence. I was wrong, Dominic said. The words landed like bombs. I was wrong to refuse him. Wrong to make him choose between loyalty to me and love for his daughter. Wrong to expect him to watch his child die rather than cross me. Stood. Boss, with respect, you can't. Sit down. Dominic's voice cracked like a whip. Sat. I'm not saying betrayal is acceptable. I'm saying I created the conditions that made it necessary. That's on me. He walked slowly around the table. We talk about family. We talk about loyalty. We talk about taking care of our own. But what does that mean if I won't help when one of you is desperate? What good is loyalty if it only flows one direction? You're going soft, Thomas said. The old boss would have had Lucas dead already. The old boss lost his brother because he wouldn't listen. Dominic stopped behind Thomas's chair. The old boss would have killed a man for trying to save his daughter. Is that the boss you want me to be? No one answered. Lucas lives, Dominic said. He's demoted. He works off his debt. His daughter gets her treatments paid for by the organization. And from now on, anyone who needs help, who's facing impossible choices, comes to me first. Before you make desperate decisions that force me to kill you. Understood. Slowly, heads nodded. Even Thomas, though he looked angry. This doesn't mean betrayal is acceptable, Dominic continued. It means I'm acknowledging my role in creating it. Or family. Family means helping each other. Even when it's expensive. Even when it's inconvenient. Even when the rules say otherwise. The meeting ended. Men filed out, whispering to each other. Gregory stopped by my chair. That was dangerous. Changing the rules like that. Maybe, I said. But maybe the old rules were more dangerous. You've changed him. In 3 weeks, you've changed how he thinks about power. I just reminded him to finish listening. Gregory smiled slightly. Keep doing that. This organization needs it. After everyone left, Dominic sat down across from me. Did I just make a massive mistake? I don't know. Maybe. But it was the right mistake to make. The right mistake. Better to be wrong for the right reasons than right for the wrong ones. Your brother would be proud. Dominic's eyes went distant. Yeah, he would. 3 days later, someone tried to kill me. I was walking from my car to the estate entrance, arms full of groceries I'd picked up for the kitchen staff. The shot came from somewhere in the trees. The bullet hit the car door 6 inches from my head. I dropped everything and ran. More shots. Concrete exploding around my feet. I dove behind a fountain. Pulled out my phone. Called Marco. Someone's shooting at the estate. Stay down. I'm coming. 30 seconds felt like hours. Then Marco and 4 others poured out of the house, weapons drawn. They moved toward the trees. More gunfire. Return fire. Shouting. Then silence. Marco jogged back to me. You hit. No. Who was it? Russians. 3 of them. Dead now. He pulled me to my feet. Inside. Now. Dominic met us in the foyer. His face was pale. The Russians. Yeah. They knew Adrian would be outside at this time. They were waiting. How did they know? Marco's expression darkened. We have another leak. For the next hour, Dominic's study became a war room. Photos. Timelines. Trying to figure out who knew my schedule. Who had access to security protocols. Who could have told the Russians when I'd be vulnerable. The list was short. 5 people. All trusted. All vetted. We question everyone, Thomas said. He'd arrived 20 minutes earlier, looking grim. One by one. Find out who's dirty. And if we're wrong. Gregory asked. If we accuse innocent people, we lose trust. If we don't find the leak, more people die, Thomas shot back. They argued. Back and forth. Getting nowhere. Finally, Dominic held up his hand. Adrian. What are you thinking? Everyone looked at me. I'd been quiet, studying the list of names, thinking about Lucas, about patterns, about what fear makes people do. The Russians didn't just know my schedule, I said slowly. They knew I'd be outside at exactly 4:30. That means someone told them recently. Within the last few hours. So, Thomas said. So whoever leaked this information had to communicate with the Russians between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. today. That narrows it down. I looked at Marco. Who has phone records you can access quickly? Marco pulled out his laptop. Started typing. Everyone on the list. Check outgoing calls and texts from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. today. Look for anything to unknown numbers. Anything encrypted. Anything that stands out. We waited. 5 minutes. In. Then Marco stopped. Got it. 3 calls from Gregory's phone to a number registered to a Russian import company. Encrypted. Short. Between 2:15 and 3:30. The room went silent. Everyone turned to look at Gregory. His face was white. No. That's not possible. I didn't. Explain the calls, Dominic said quietly. I don't know. I didn't make them. Someone must have. Your phone is password protected. Biometric locked. No one else can access it. Marco stood. Unless you gave them access. I didn't. Gregory's voice rose. I swear I didn't call anyone. I watched him. Watched his hands shake. Watched his eyes dart around the room. Watched him breathe too fast. And I saw something familiar. The same fear I'd seen in Lucas. The same desperation. Let him finish talking, I said. He just admitted. He admitted nothing. He's confused. Scared. Let him explain before you decide he's guilty. Dominic studied Gregory. Then nodded. Talk. Gregory sat down hard. Put his head in his hands. When he looked up, tears streaked his face. I gave my phone to someone. Just for an hour. 3 days ago. They said they needed to make a business call. I didn't think. Who? Dominic's voice was ice. My son. Gregory's voice broke. My son came to visit. He said his phone died. He needed to make an important call about a job interview. Gave him my phone. I didn't know he'd. Your son works for the Russians. I don't know. I didn't think he worked for anyone. He's been unemployed for months. He said he was looking for work. I thought he was trying to get his life together. Marco pulled up files on his laptop. Gregory's son. 24. No criminal record. But he's been seen with known Russian associates 3 times in the last month. He turned the laptop around. Photos. Surveillance. Gregory's son in bars, restaurants, talking to men with Russian tattoos. Gregory stared at the photos. No, he wouldn't. He's my son. Your son sold you out, Thomas said harshly. Used you to get to us. And now Adrian almost died because you were stupid enough to trust him. I didn't know. Ignorance doesn't. Enough, Dominic said. He walked to the window. Stared out at the garden where Isabella was playing with Nina. Gregory, where is your son now? I don't know. He left after the call. Said he'd be in touch. I haven't heard from him since. Find him, Dominic ordered Marco. I want him here by tonight. Boss, we should move fast. The Russians know Adrian's alive. They'll try again. Then we move Adrian. Safe house. Full security. Until this is resolved. Dominic turned to Gregory. You're not a traitor. But your son is. What should I do about that? Gregory looked broken. Whatever you have to do. That's not an answer. I'm asking what you think is right. I think. Gregory's voice shook. I think he's still my son. I think he made terrible choices. But I think everyone deserves a chance to explain before they're judged. Isn't that what you've been teaching us? The room went quiet. Dominic looked at me. I saw the question in his eyes. The same question he'd faced with Lucas. Where do you draw the line between mercy and weakness? Your son endangered my family, Dominic said slowly. Endangered someone under my protection. The rules are clear. I know. But you're asking me to let him finish talking. I'm asking you to be the man Angelo would want you to be. The name hit Dominic like a physical blow. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet. Find him. Bring him here. We'll hear what he has to say. Then we decide. Thomas exploded. You're making us look weak. First Lucas, now this kid. Where does it end? It ends when I say it ends. Dominic's voice turned dangerous. This is my organization. These are my rules. And I'm changing them. You don't like it. There's the door. Thomas stared at him. Then sat back down. This is a mistake. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. Gregory's son was found 6 hours later. Hiding in a motel outside the city. Marco brought him zip-tied and terrified. His name was Jacob. 24 years old, thin, with his father's eyes and a stranger's desperation. Dominic had him brought to the study. Not the basement. The study. Sat him down in a chair. Had the zip ties removed. You tried to have Adrian killed, Dominic said. Jacob said nothing. The Russians paid you to give them information. You used your father's phone to set up the hit. You endangered this family. Yes or no? Jacob's voice was barely a whisper. Yes. Why? They said they'd kill me if I didn't help them. They said I owed them money. They said this was the only way to pay it back. How much do you owe? 50,000. Gambling debt. Dominic leaned back. So you sold your father out. Endangered innocent people. Became an accomplice to attempted murder. All for $50,000. They would have killed me. And now I might kill you instead. How is that better? Jacob started crying. Ugly, desperate tears. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I'm so scared. I've been scared for months. The Russians keep coming, keep asking for more. I tried to run but they found me. I tried to pay but I don't have the money. I didn't know what else to do. Gregory sat in the corner, watching his son fall apart. His face was expressionless, carved from stone. Your father would have helped you, Dominic said. If you'd asked. I was ashamed. I didn't want him to know what I'd done. Didn't want him to see me like this. So instead you made him an accomplice. Made him the reason someone almost died. That's better. Jacob sobbed. No. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I watched Dominic. Watched him process this. Another desperate person. Another impossible choice. Another moment where mercy and justice pulled in opposite directions. Adrian, Dominic said. He tried to have you killed. What do you think I should do? The room turned to me. Jacob looked up with red eyes. Afraid. Hoping. Knowing he had no right to hope. I thought about my father. About how he'd walked away when things got hard. About how running from fear creates more fear. About how shame makes people do terrible things. I think, I said carefully, that shame is dangerous. It makes people hide instead of asking for help. It makes them hurt others to protect themselves. Jacob was too ashamed to tell his father the truth. So he made everything worse. That's not an excuse, Thomas said. No, but it's an explanation. And explanations matter. I looked at Jacob. You made terrible choices. You hurt people. You betrayed your father. That's real. But you did it because you were scared and ashamed and didn't know how to ask for help. That's also real. So what? Thomas demanded. We forgive him and let the Russians keep threatening us? No, Dominic said slowly. We help him. We pay his debt. We protect him from the Russians. And in return he works for us. Earns back the money. Proves he can be trusted. Same as Lucas. You're building an army of traitors. I'm building a family that actually helps each other, Dominic corrected. That's what family means. Helping people before they get desperate enough to betray you. He stood and walked over to Jacob. You're going to live. You're going to work off your debt. And you're going to learn that shame gets people killed. Next time you're in trouble, you come to me first. Understood? Jacob nodded frantically. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so. Don't thank me. Thank Adrian. He's the one who reminded me that everyone deserves to finish their sentence. Even people who don't deserve it. 2 weeks later, the Russians were no longer a problem. Dominic had gone to them directly. No threats, no violence, just a conversation. He'd explained that the leak was closed, that any further attacks would be met with total war, and that perhaps they should discuss territory boundaries like civilized people rather than trying to kill each other's associates. They'd agreed. Mostly because Dominic had brought proof that he knew where their families lived, where their money was hidden, where every piece of their organization operated. Not a threat, just information. The kind of information that said he could destroy them whenever he chose. After that meeting, Dominic came back to the estate looking exhausted but satisfied. Sometimes, he told me, the most dangerous thing you can do is show someone you could destroy them and choose not to. It makes them more afraid of what you might do than what you actually do. Is that what you learned from Angelo? No. That's what I learned from you. My mother's condition worsened that week. The cancer was aggressive. The doctors said weeks now, not months. But she was comfortable, pain-free, surrounded by beauty. Every morning she asked me if this was real. Every morning I told her yes. I don't understand it, she said one afternoon. We were sitting in the garden. Isabella was reading nearby. How did we get so lucky? This place, these people, this care. It's more than we could have ever afforded. I helped someone, I said. And they helped us back. The man who owns this place. The one I see sometimes watching from the windows. Is he good? I thought about how to answer. He's trying to be. That's all anyone can do. She squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you, Adrian. Whatever you did to get us here, I'm proud. That night I couldn't sleep. I walked through the house, ending up in Dominic's study. He was there, sitting in the dark, staring at an old photograph. The same one he'd shown me before. Angelo. Can't sleep either, he asked. Too much on my mind. Want to talk about it? I sat down. I keep thinking about what happens next. When she's gone. What happens to me? You stay. You keep doing what you do. You keep listening. Keep reminding me to be human. He set the photo down. You've changed this organization in a month. Made me question every rule I've built my life on. Made me remember what my brother tried to teach me. I didn't do anything special. You did the impossible. You made me listen. He looked at me with something like gratitude. Do you know how rare that is? How many people have tried and failed? You walked into my basement expecting to die, and instead of begging for your life, you asked me to let you finish talking. No one does that. I just wanted you to understand I wasn't a thief. And I wanted to understand why my brother died thinking I didn't care about him. You gave me a chance to not make that mistake again. That's worth more than you know. We sat in silence for a while. Then Dominic said, Your mother doesn't have much time left. When she passes, you're going to feel empty. Like nothing matters anymore. That's normal. But I want you to know you have a place here. You have a purpose. You're not alone. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me. You earned it. By being brave enough to ask for what no one else dares to ask for. Attention. The chance to finish your sentence. My mother died on a Tuesday morning. Peaceful. Surrounded by people who'd come to care about her. Nina held her hand. Isabella brought her flowers from the garden. The nurses cried. Even Dominic came to say goodbye to a woman he barely knew but respected deeply. She taught you well, he told me after. The thing about finishing sentences. About listening. She taught you that and you taught it to me. I'll always be grateful. The funeral was small. Just us. The family that had formed around two broken people who'd found each other in the worst possible way. I stood by her grave and thought about the day I'd screamed at her. The day she'd let me finish. The day she'd taught me that everyone deserves to be heard, even when they're wrong. I kept the promise, Mom, I whispered. I gave someone else that gift. And he gave it to others. Your lesson didn't die with you. After everyone left, I stayed. Just me and the grave and the memory of her voice telling me to always let people finish their sentences. Because sometimes the last thing they say changes everything. I felt a hand on my shoulder. Dominic stood beside me. She would be proud of who you've become. I'm working for a criminal. You're working for a man who's trying to be better. There's a difference. He looked at the headstone. I never got to thank her for raising someone like you. Someone who wasn't afraid to ask a dangerous man to listen. So I'm thanking her now. She'd probably tell you to keep listening. To keep giving people chances to explain. I will. I promise. He turned to walk away then stopped. Adrian, there's something I need to tell you. About why I really let you finish talking that night. I thought it was because I reminded you of Angelo. That was part of it. But there was something else. He faced me fully. When you told me about your mother letting you scream at her, about how she said everyone deserves to finish their sentence, I remembered something Angelo told me the day before he died. Waited. He said, "You never let anyone finish talking. You always think you know what they're going to say, so you cut them off. But someday, someone's going to say something you need to hear, and you're going to miss it because you didn't let them finish." Those were his exact words. The last thing he said to me. Dominic's voice broke. 2 weeks later he was gone, and I realized he was right. I've been cutting people off my whole life. Making decisions before I had all the information. Judging before I understood. And it cost me my brother. So when I asked you to let me finish, I heard Angelo's voice, telling me not to make the same mistake again. That's why I stopped Marco. That's why I listened. Because my dead brother was speaking through you, reminding me of the man I used to be. The man I could still become. He walked back toward the car. I stood there, understanding finally hitting me. I hadn't saved my own life that night. Angelo had. By teaching Dominic a lesson he'd finally learned to hear. Life settled into a new rhythm after Mom passed. I moved into a permanent room at the estate. Not as a guest. As a family. Nina and I became close. Isabella called me Uncle Adrian. I sat in meetings, listened carefully, and helped Dominic make decisions based on complete information rather than assumptions. The organization changed. Slowly. Thomas eventually left, unable to accept the new way of doing things. But others stayed. Gregory, Lucas, Jacob, all of them working off debts, proving loyalty could be rebuilt, learning that asking for help was stronger than suffering in silence. One morning Dominic called me into his office. "I have a proposition." "Okay. I want you to start a program. Something official. Where anyone in the organization can come ask for help. Medical bills. Family problems. Financial emergencies. Whatever they need. Before they get desperate. Before they make stupid decisions. Like a support system. Like a family." He slid papers across the desk. "I'm putting you in charge. You'll evaluate requests, determine what's legitimate, arrange help. You'll be the person who makes sure no one has to choose between loyalty and survival." I looked at the documents. My name at the top. Title. Resources. Authority. Why me? Because you understand what it's like to be desperate. What it's like to need help and be too afraid to ask. Because you'll listen to people's whole story before deciding what they deserve. He leaned back. Because my brother would approve. And I'm trying to build something he'd be proud of. I don't know if I'm qualified. You're the only person qualified. You're the one who changed how I think about power. About leadership. About what it means to be strong. He smiled slightly. Besides, you're the only person in this organization who's not afraid to tell me when I'm wrong. That's valuable. I took the papers. Okay. I'll do it. Good. One more thing. He pulled out another envelope. This is a stipend. Enough that you never have to worry about money again. Enough that you can focus on helping others without worrying about yourself. Dominic, I can't. You can. You will. Your mother spent her last months comfortable because I could provide that. Now I'm making sure you spend your life comfortably while you help others the way she taught you to help me. I didn't know what to say. So I just nodded. One last thing, Dominic said. Nina wanted me to ask if you'd walk her down the aisle. She's getting married next month. Her father's going to be there, obviously. But she wants you beside her too. Says you're the brother she never had. My throat tightened. I'd be honored. Good. Now get out of here. You have work to do. 6 months after my mother died, I sat in my office reviewing the 5th request of the day. A young guy whose wife needed surgery. Standard request. Easy approval. I signed off and moved to the next file. Someone knocked. Isabella poked her head in. She was 8 now. Taller. Still serious but smiling more. Uncle Adrian, can I ask you something? Always. She came in and sat down. My teacher says people can't change. She says adults are who they are and kids should accept that. Is that true? Thought carefully. Why do you ask? Because Uncle Dominic changed. He used to be really scary. Everyone said so. But now he's different. He listens more. He helps people. He's still scary sometimes, but he's also kind. So people can change, right? Yeah, they can. But only if they want to. What made Uncle Dominic want to change? Someone reminded him of what he'd lost. Someone showed him there was a better way to be strong. Was it you? Partly. But mostly it was his brother. And my mom. And you. And everyone who needed him to be better. Isabella thought about that. Then she said, I think my mom might come back someday. And I think she'll be different too. I think she's learning to be strong somewhere else. And when she's ready, she'll come home. Maybe, I said gently. And if she does, we'll listen to her story. We'll let her finish explaining before we decide if she deserves forgiveness. Like Uncle Dominic did with you? Exactly like that. She hugged me and ran off to play. I watched her go, thinking about how far we'd all come. A criminal learning to listen. A desperate driver learning to survive. A traumatized child learning to hope. All because someone asked for the chance to finish their sentence. My phone buzzed. Text from Dominic. Meeting in 20. Russians again. Need your read on something. I grabbed my notebook and headed to the conference room. The work never ended. People kept making mistakes, getting desperate, needing help. But now they had somewhere to turn. Someone who would listen. Someone who understood that the most dangerous thing wasn't violence or betrayal. It was silent. The things people were too afraid to say. As I walked through the mansion that had become my home, I passed Mom's photograph on the wall. Dominic had hung it beside Angelo's. Two people who'd taught the same lesson from different directions. Everyone deserves to finish their sentence. Even when they're scared. Even when they're wrong. Especially then. I'm still listening, Mom, I whispered. Just like you taught me. The meeting was tense. The Russians wanted access to shipping routes. Dominic's shipping routes. The kind of request that would have started a war 2 years ago. Now, it started a conversation. I sat in my corner watching. Listening. Looking for what wasn't being said. The Russian leader, Victor, spoke confidently. But his second-in-command kept glancing at him nervously. Small tells. Micro-expressions. Fear hidden under bravado. After an hour of negotiation, Dominic called a break. Pulled me aside. What are you seeing? Victor's confident. But his guy isn't. Something's wrong on their end. Something they're not telling you. Recommendations. Ask them directly. Not as an accusation. As an offer to help. See if they're hiding a problem you could solve. Dominic nodded. When everyone returned, he did exactly that. Victor, you came here asking for access to my routes. But I think there's something else going on. Something you're not saying. If you're in trouble, tell me. Maybe we can help each other. The room went quiet. Victor's face stayed neutral. But his second-in-command cracked. The Chinese are moving in on our ports. We're losing access. If we don't find new routes soon, we're finished. Victor shot him a look. But the truth was out. Why didn't you just say that? Dominic asked. Because asking for help makes us look weak, Victor admitted. In our world, weakness gets you killed. In my world, Dominic said slowly, hiding problems until they explode gets you killed. Asking for help takes more strength than pretending you don't need it. He leaned forward. Here's what I'll do. I'll give you access to 2 of my routes. Not permanently. 6 months. Renewable if you prove trustworthy. In exchange, you share intelligence on the Chinese. We work together instead of fighting each other. Deal. Victor looked surprised. Then suspicious. Why would you help us? Because someone once taught me that solving problems is better than creating wars. And because everyone deserves a chance to finish explaining before I decide they're my enemy. The deal was made. Hands were shaken. As everyone filed out, Victor stopped by my corner. You're the one who changed him. The driver everyone talks about. The one who asked a Mafia boss to let him finish talking. That's me. That took courage. Or stupidity. I haven't decided which. Probably both, I said. Victor smiled. The world would be safer if more men in power listened like Dominic does now. Most of us just take what we want and deal with the consequences later. How's that working out? Not well, if I'm being honest. He extended his hand. Thank you for reminding him that listening is a weapon too. After he left, Dominic sat down beside me. Another crisis avoided because someone finished their sentence. You've changed how I do business, Adrian. How I see the world. How I define strength. I just showed you what my mom showed me. Your mom was a smart woman. I wish I'd met her when she was healthy. When she could have told me herself what she taught you. She would have liked you. The you you're becoming anyway. He laughed. Real laugh. The me I'm becoming. I like that. Like I'm still under construction. Aren't we all? Yeah, I guess we are. He stood. Nina's wedding is next week. You ready? Ready as I'll ever be. Good. Because after that, I'm announcing you as my official counsel. Everyone in the organization will know your family. That means protection, respect. But it also means you're a target. People will come after you to hurt me. I know. And you're still willing to do this. I thought about the basement. About the bolt cutters. About the moment I'd asked him to let me finish talking. About how that single request had changed everything. Someone has to remind you to keep listening. Might as well be me. Might as well. He put a hand on my shoulder. Thank you, Adrian. For saving my life that night. Not by lying about the diamonds. But by reminding me I could still be the man my brother wanted me to be. You saved mine too. By giving me the chance to explain. We saved each other then. As Dominic walked away, I looked around the conference room. Empty now. But soon it would fill again. More problems. More desperate people. More impossible choices between mercy and justice. But now there was someone here who understood that the most important thing wasn't making quick decisions. It was making informed ones. Listening to the whole story. Letting people finish their sentences. Because sometimes the last thing someone says changes everything. I pulled out my phone and looked at the last text Mom had sent me before she got too sick to type. Just 3 words. Keep listening always. I will, Mom, I whispered to the empty room. I promise. The legend of the Mafia boss who learned to listen had only just begun. And I was the one who got to help write the next chapter. Not with guns or money or fear. But with the simple, radical act of letting people finish what they had to say. In a world built on silence and violence, that might be the most dangerous weapon of all.